I invited my parents, my two brothers, and my sister to Thanksgiving dinner at a private riverfront estate in Charleston, South Carolina. I spent almost 3 weeks planning every detail. I hired a chef who used to run the kitchen at one of the finest restaurants downtown. I ordered flowers from a local designer, rented antique gold flatware, bought linens the color of warm cream, and had a long table set beneath the glass sunroom overlooking the marsh. The dinner cost me just over $18,000. It was supposed to be the first holiday where my family finally saw me clearly. Not as the difficult daughter, not as the one who worked too much, not as the woman who refused to marry for comfort, but as someone who had built something real. That afternoon I stood in the doorway of the sunroom, wearing a deep green dress I had saved for months to buy, watching the candles flicker against 12 empty plates. The turkey rested beneath a silver cover. The sweet potatoes were topped with pecans and brown sugar. The cornbread dressing smelled like sage and butter. There was a pecan pie cooling on a marble island, and a bottle of champagne waiting in a silver bucket because I had planned to tell them the truth after dessert. I owned the estate, not rented, not borrowed, owned. They had driven past that property for years and admired it from the road, never knowing their lonely little event planner daughter was the woman who bought it after restoring 3 historic homes and selling 2 for record prices. But at 5:30, nobody came. At 5:45, nobody called. At 6, the chef stepped into the hallway and asked gently, "Should we hold the first course a little longer, Miss Brooks?" I smiled like my heart was not cracking down the middle. "Just 10 more minutes," I said. At 6:12, my phone buzzed. It was my mother. Her text said, "Nora, we decided to have Thanksgiving at Caleb's new house instead. It just makes more sense. He has important people there tonight, and we don't want to embarrass him by leaving early. Please don't make this dramatic. You can freeze whatever food you made. Happy Thanksgiving." I read it once, then again, then a third time, because I thought maybe my eyes had rearranged the words into something crueler than what she had actually written. But no, they had not forgotten. They had chosen. My family had chosen my brother's house, my brother's guests, my brother's reputation, and they had waited until the exact minute dinner should have started to tell me I was not worth showing up for. Before I tell you what happened next, my sisters, my brothers, my cousins listening tonight, tell me where you are watching from. Because if you have ever been the one left out of your own family's celebration, you already understand why that empty table hurt more than any insult could. My name is Nora Brooks. I was 33 years old when this happened, and for most of my life, I had been treated like a guest in a family where everyone else had a permanent seat. My parents, Elaine and Robert Brooks, were respectable people on the outside. Church every Sunday, matching smiles in Christmas photos. My mother knew how to arrange flowers, offer casseroles, and whisper judgment without raising her voice. My father knew how to shake hands, talk about discipline, and tell everyone his children were his greatest blessings. But inside our house, blessings came in ranks. My oldest brother, Caleb, was first. Caleb could walk into a room late, empty-handed, and somehow be thanked for coming. My younger brother, Drew, was the baby, so every mistake he made became a season of growth. My sister, Paige, was my mother's favorite because she had married a dentist, had 2 perfect children, and knew how to smile without ever saying what she really meant. And then there was me, Nora, too serious, too independent, too ambitious, too stubborn, too unmarried, too interested in contracts and renovations and old properties with rotting floors that everyone else thought were worthless. When I was 24, I started a small event design company out of my 1-bedroom apartment. I staged weddings, corporate dinners, charity galas, and private celebrations for clients with more money than patience. I learned lighting, permits, vendor contracts, restoration budgets, hospitality design, everything. Then I started buying neglected historic houses, fixing them, and turning them into high-end event venues. My family called it decorating. Caleb called it playing hostess. My mother once told me, "Honey, people like you don't build legacies. You help other people celebrate theirs." That sentence lived in me for years. So when I bought the Bellevue house, a riverfront estate with white columns, wraparound porches, and windows that caught the sunset like fire. I told nobody. I spent 18 months restoring it. I replaced the roof, repaired the heart pine floors, rebuilt the sunroom, restored the guest cottages, and turned the carriage house into a commercial kitchen. The first event there booked for $42,000. The second booked for $65,000. By that Thanksgiving, Bellevue House was already reserved 18 months out. Still, some childish part of me wanted my family to walk through those doors, gasp, and say, "Nora, we had no idea. We are proud of you." That was all I wanted. Not their money, not their approval of my choices. Just one moment where they saw me. Instead, I stood in a sunroom full of candlelight and untouched food, holding a text message that told me to freeze my own humiliation. I paid the chef and his staff double and told them they could take whatever food they wanted home to their families. They looked uncomfortable, the way kind strangers look when they accidentally witness something private and painful. After they left, the house became painfully quiet. I sat at the head of the table because there was no one else to sit there. The candles burned low, the marsh grass outside bent in the wind. Somewhere in the distance, a boat horn sounded on the river. I picked up my fork and tried to take one bite of turkey. It tasted like shame. Then my phone lit up again. This time, it was not a text. It was a notification from Paige. She was live. I should not have tapped it, but pain makes you do foolish things. I opened the live stream, and there they were. My whole family, my parents, Caleb, Drew, Paige and her husband, my nieces, my nephews, several people from my father's church, a local banker, a city councilman, two women I recognized from charity boards my mother had always wanted to impress. They were all gathered inside a huge white farmhouse with iron chandeliers, vaulted ceilings, and a kitchen I recognized instantly, because I had designed it, not for Caleb. For a client who disappeared 6 months earlier after failing to pay the final renovation invoice. The house had been part of a project under one of my companies. Caleb had told everyone he had acquired it through a private investment deal. But I knew that kitchen. I knew the imported tile above the stove. I knew the reclaimed beams. I knew the custom oak island because I had chosen the stain myself. Paige held the camera high, smiling with that polished little expression that meant she was performing. "Happy Thanksgiving, everyone," she said. "We are so blessed to be together tonight at Caleb's beautiful new home. This is what family looks like." The camera swung toward my parents. My mother wore pearls and held a glass of wine. My father stood beside Caleb, one arm around his shoulder like he was presenting a trophy. Then Caleb raised a carving knife over the turkey and laughed. "I just want to say," he announced, loud enough for everyone watching to hear, "I'm grateful we changed plans tonight." No offense to Nora, but I didn't want important guests driving all the way out to some little rental hall she decorated for the holiday. People chuckled. My mother smiled into her wine glass. My father said, "Your sister means well. She just gets carried away trying to prove herself." Caleb grinned. "She probably had folding chairs and buffet trays. You all know Nora. Always making things look fancy, but never quite understanding what real business looks like." The room laughed harder. I sat at my real mahogany table, inside my real riverfront estate, watching my family laugh at a version of me they had invented because the real me made them uncomfortable. Then Paige turned the camera toward herself and lowered her voice. "A lot of people have asked why Nora isn't here," she said, wearing fake sadness like perfume. "We love her, but she struggles with family gatherings sometimes. She can be jealous when Caleb succeeds. So tonight we just wanted peace." My hand went numb around the phone. Jealous. That was the story they had chosen. Not abandoned, not excluded. Jealous. They had stolen the night, stolen the narrative, and turned me into the bitter woman outside the window. I dropped the phone onto the table, but the live stream kept playing. Laughter crackled through the speaker. Glasses clinked. Someone said Caleb's farmhouse looked like something out of a magazine. I looked at the empty chair where my mother's name card sat in gold calligraphy, and something inside me went cold. Not broken. Cold. I stood up, walked to the foyer, and pulled my coat from the closet. I did not know what I planned to do. I only knew I could not stay in that house listening to people who shared my blood turn my pain into entertainment. That was when I heard tires on the gravel drive. At first, I thought one of the staff had forgotten something, then headlights swept across the front windows. A black Lincoln Town car stopped beneath the gas lanterns at the entrance. The driver's door opened. A tall man in a dark overcoat stepped out, holding a leather briefcase in one hand and a flat navy folder in the other. I knew him immediately. Arthur Bell, my late grandmother's attorney. I had not seen him since her funeral 6 years earlier. He walked up the front steps slowly, like a man who had carried too many secrets for too long. When I opened the door, he removed his hat and looked past me into the glowing, empty house. "Nora," he said quietly, "I hoped I would not be too late." I gripped the edge of the door. Too late for what? His eyes moved to the table behind me, the untouched dinner, the 12 empty place settings, the name cards waiting for people who had chosen another room. His mouth tightened. "For the truth," he said. Arthur Bell stepped inside without asking. He was in his late 60s, with silver hair, sharp eyes, and the kind of posture that made a room behave. My grandmother, Josephine Brooks, had trusted him with everything before she died. She had been the only person in my family who ever treated me like I was not strange for wanting more. When I was a little girl, Grandma Jo used to take me to estate sales and old houses. She would press keys into my palm and say, "A house tells you who cared for it and who only wanted to own it." She died before I bought Bellevue House. At least, I thought she did. Arthur set the navy folder on my foyer table. "I need you to read this before you go anywhere near your brother tonight." My stomach tightened. "You know where they are?" "I know exactly where they are," he said, "and I know exactly why they are there." I opened the folder. Inside were copies of property records, business filings, loan documents, and notarized statements. At first, the words blurred. Then I saw the address. The farmhouse. Caleb's new house. The house from Paige's livestream. My company's unfinished project. I looked up slowly. "What is this?" Arthur's face did not change. "It is proof that your brother never bought that property. He transferred it illegally out of an escrow account connected to your company." I stopped breathing. "That's impossible." "It should have been," Arthur said. "But your parents helped him." My knees nearly gave out. He guided me toward a chair and placed another document in front of me. It was a power of attorney form. My name was printed across the top. My signature was at the bottom, except I had never signed it. The handwriting tried to imitate mine, but it was wrong. The N curved too high. The B in Brooks was too tight. Whoever forged it had copied the look of my signature, not the rhythm. My mouth went dry. "They forged my name?" Arthur nodded once. "Your father notarized it through an old friend. Your mother signed as a witness. Caleb used it to move the farmhouse under his new development company. Then he used that property as collateral for a private loan." I heard the live stream still playing faintly from the dining room. Caleb's voice rose in laughter. I stared at the forged signature. My own family had not just skipped Thanksgiving, they had stolen from me. Arthur opened his briefcase and removed a second envelope, cream-colored and sealed with red wax. "This is from your grandmother." My heart lurched. "What?" "She instructed me to give it to you when one of two things happened. Either when you turned 35, or when your family tried to take something from you that they had no right to touch." My fingers trembled as I broke the seal. Inside was a letter in my grandmother's handwriting. "Nora, my brave girl, if Arthur is handing you this, then the people who should have protected you have mistaken your silence for weakness. I am sorry. I saw more than you thought I saw. I saw how they praised your brothers for breathing and criticized you for building. I saw how they called your dreams impractical while quietly benefiting from your discipline. There are things I did not tell the family because greed has a way of wearing a Sunday dress. The Bellevue Land Trust was never meant for your father. It was never meant for Caleb. It was meant for you. I put Arthur in charge because I knew they would pressure you, shame you, and someday try to take what you built. When they do not beg them to understand your worth. Show them the paperwork. Then lock the door." I pressed the letter to my chest and closed my eyes. For 6 years, I had thought my grandmother left me memories. She had left me protection. Arthur leaned forward. There is more. He slid one final document across the table. It was a certified deed. My name was on it. So was another name. Bellevue Holdings Trust. Grandma Joe's Trust. I looked at him. The farmhouse Caleb is in tonight, Arthur said. Sits on land your grandmother placed inside the same trust. It was leased to your company for restoration. Caleb's transfer is fraudulent. He does not own that house. You control it. The words landed like thunder. I looked toward the dining room, toward my phone, toward the laughing voices still coming from a house my brother had no right to occupy. He invited bankers there, I whispered. Yes. He's asking for money tonight. Yes. Arthur's expression hardened. He is using stolen property and a forged document to convince investors he has assets he does not own. If anyone gives him money based on that claim, it becomes fraud. My sadness disappeared. In its place came clarity so sharp it almost hurt. I stood up. Do the police know? Not yet, Arthur said. I wanted you to decide how public this needed to become. For 1 second, I thought about my mother. I thought about her pearls, her careful smile, the way she had told me not to be dramatic while sitting at a stolen table. I thought about my father praising Caleb for real business while his own signature sat near my forged one. I thought about Paige telling strangers I was jealous. Then I thought about my grandmother's words. Show them the paperwork, then lock the door. I picked up the Navy folder. Arthur, I said, call whoever you need to call. He looked at me carefully. And where are you going? I buttoned my coat. To Thanksgiving. The farmhouse sat 30 minutes outside Charleston behind a line of live oaks dripping with Spanish moss. Cars lined the gravel drive when Arthur and I arrived. Warm light spilled from every window. Music floated through the night. Through the glass front doors, I could see people laughing beneath the chandeliers I had selected from an architectural salvage warehouse in Savannah. My chest tightened, but I did not slow down. Arthur walked beside me with his briefcase. Behind us, 2 sheriff's deputies stepped out of an unmarked vehicle. Another car pulled in behind them, carrying a woman from the county clerk's office who had worked with Arthur before. He had not come unprepared. I opened the front door without knocking. The room went quiet in waves. First, the guests nearest the entrance stopped talking. Then the people by the kitchen turned. Then Paige, still holding her phone, lowered it slowly. My mother saw me and froze. Caleb stood at the head of the dining table with a glass of bourbon in his hand. His smile vanished for half a second, then returned twice as wide. Well, he said loudly, look who finally decided to join the family. A few people laughed nervously. I stepped inside. This is a beautiful house, I said. Caleb's eyes narrowed. Thank you. I'm glad you could see what actual ownership looks like. My father moved toward me with that stern face he used when he wanted to control the room. Nora, not tonight. Whatever feelings you have, this is not the place. I looked at him. You're right, Daddy. This isn't the place for feelings. I lifted the folder. It's the place for facts. My mother's face tightened. Paige rushed forward, smiling too brightly. Nora, honey, you're embarrassing yourself. Caleb has guests. Important guests. Maybe we can talk outside. I turned to her. You were comfortable talking about me online. We can talk here. The room went still. Caleb set down his glass. Enough. You don't get to storm into my house and perform some wounded little act because we didn't come to your dinner. Arthur cleared his throat. This is not your house, Mr. Brooks. Every eye turned to him. Caleb blinked. Excuse me? Arthur stepped forward and opened his briefcase. My name is Arthur Bell. I represent the Bellevue Holdings Trust and Miss Nora Brooks. My mother's hand flew to her pearls. My father's mouth opened, then closed. Caleb laughed once, but there was no humor in it. I don't know what game this is, but I own this property. No, Arthur said calmly. You occupy this property through a fraudulent transfer executed using a forged power of attorney. The room erupted in whispers. Paige whispered, Oh my God. Caleb pointed at me. You did this. You bitter little... Finish that sentence, I said quietly, and make sure everyone hears you." He stopped. I walked to the dining table. It was covered in food, flowers, candles, and name cards. My parents sat at the places of honor. Caleb had placed himself at the head. I set the folder directly in front of him. "You told everyone I was jealous because you succeeded, but this house was never yours. The kitchen you bragged about? My company designed it. The restoration you took credit for? My crews completed it. The deed you waved around? Built on a forged signature." The banker near the fireplace took a step back. The city councilman lowered his drink. Caleb's face darkened. "You can't prove anything." Arthur handed a copy to the deputy. "We can." I removed the power of attorney and held it up. "This is my name, but I did not sign this." Then I turned to my father. "You notarized it." His face drained of color. "Now, Nora." "No," I said. "You don't get to father me out of this." My mother began crying immediately, not because she was sorry, but because crying had always been her favorite exit door. "We were only trying to help Caleb," she said. "He was under so much pressure." I stared at her. "So you stole from me?" "We did not steal," she said. "You were not using the property the way Caleb could. He has a family. He has responsibilities. You have always been so independent." There it was, the old family math. If I could survive without help, then I deserved none. If Caleb needed something, then everyone owed him everything. I looked around the room. "My mother invited you here tonight to celebrate my brother's success. My father told you he built this. My sister told her followers I stayed away because I was jealous. But the truth is, I invited all of them to Thanksgiving at my home, and they abandoned me to sit inside a property they stole." Paige's eyes filled with panic. "I didn't know about the documents." I looked at her phone. "But you knew how to lie." Her mouth snapped shut. Caleb grabbed the folder and shoved it back toward me. "This is family business." "No," Arthur said. "This is legal business." The deputy stepped forward. "Mr. Brooks, we need you to come with us and answer some questions about the transfer documents and loan applications." Caleb looked at my parents as if they could save him. My father put a hand on the back of a chair. "Officer, this is a misunderstanding. We can resolve it privately." The deputy looked at the forged power of attorney. "Not anymore." That was the moment the room changed. Before that, people had been watching drama. Now they were watching consequences. The banker whispered something to his assistant and left quickly. The councilman followed. The charity women gathered their coats. Guests slipped out one by one, avoiding eye contact with my family as if shame might be contagious. Caleb's wife, Marissa, came down the stairs holding their youngest child. Her eyes moved from Caleb to the deputies to me. "What did you do?" she asked him. Caleb said nothing. My mother reached for me. "Nora, please. Don't let them take your brother away on Thanksgiving." I looked at her hand on my sleeve. For years, I had imagined this moment. Not exactly this. Not deputies in a stolen farmhouse. Not my mother crying beneath lights I had paid to install. But some version of it. A moment where they finally needed me. A moment where I could make them feel what I had felt. But standing there, I realized revenge did not need shouting. It did not need cruelty. It only needed me to stop protecting people who never protected me. I gently removed her hand. "You didn't call me when you took my signature," I said. "Don't call me now that the bill came due." My father's eyes flashed. "You would destroy this family over a house?" I looked at the table, the candles, the food, the stolen celebration. "No, Daddy. You destroyed this family because you thought I would rather be loved than tell the truth." He had no answer. Arthur handed me a small ring of keys. "The trust allows you to revoke access immediately." I took the keys. Then I turned to everyone still standing in that room. "This property is closed as of tonight. Anyone who is not a legal resident or law enforcement officer needs to leave." Paige started sobbing. Marissa took the children upstairs to pack overnight bags. My mother sat down heavily in a chair, staring at the table like she could not understand how the holiday had turned against her. Caleb was escorted outside, not in handcuffs yet, but close enough that every person watching understood what was coming. As he passed me, He leaned in and whispered, "You'll regret this." I looked at him with the calmest voice I had ever used. "No, Caleb. For the first time in my life, I'm done regretting what you did." 3 months later, Caleb was charged with fraud, forgery, and making false statements on loan documents. He took a plea deal after the bank produced emails proving he knew the transfer was illegal. He did not get some dramatic lifetime sentence, and I will not pretend he did, but he got prison time. Real time. Enough to stop smiling for cameras. My father lost his notary commission and was forced to resign from 2 boards. My mother's charity circle stopped calling. The same women who once praised her perfect family suddenly forgot her phone number. Paige made a tearful video saying she had been misled, but the internet did what the internet does. People found her Thanksgiving live stream. They found the part where she called me jealous. They found the part where she smiled in a stolen house and called it family. She deleted her account 2 weeks later. I did not celebrate any of that. Not the way people think. I did not dance when Caleb was sentenced. I did not toast when my parents had to sell their house to cover legal fees. I did not smile when relatives who ignored me for years suddenly sent messages saying they had always believed in me. I just felt quiet, clean. Like someone had opened a window in a room where I had been holding my breath since childhood. The following Thanksgiving, I hosted dinner again at Bellevue House. This time, I set the table for 8, not 12. Arthur came. My grandmother's oldest friend came. 2 of my employees came with their spouses. My neighbor, Mrs. Alvarez, brought pumpkin flan. Marissa came with the children after she separated from Caleb. She cried in the hallway before dinner and told me she was sorry for not asking more questions. I believed her. Not because sorry fixes everything, because accountability sounds different from performance. Before we ate, I stood at the head of the table and looked around the room. The candles were lit. The river was silver under the evening sky. The food was warm. Every chair was filled by someone who had chosen to be there. For a moment, I thought about the Thanksgiving before. The empty plates, the cold turkey, my mother's text, Paige's live stream, Caleb's laugh. Then I thought about my grandmother's letter. Show them the paperwork, then lock the door. So I did. I locked the door on the version of me who begged to be included. I locked the door on people who mistook my patience for permission. I locked the door on a family table where love always came with conditions. And as I raised my glass that night, I finally understood something I wish I had known years earlier. Being left out only breaks your heart when you still believe they are sitting somewhere you belong. But sometimes, my sisters, my brothers, my cousins, the table they kept you from was never worthy of you in the first place. Sometimes the real blessing is not getting invited. Sometimes the real miracle is finding the key, reading the deed, and realizing the house was yours all along. Sometimes the people who miss your table teach you to notice the ones who gladly sit beside you. Nora lost an old dream of being chosen, but she found steadier love in truth, gratitude, and quiet courage. When life asks you to close one painful door, may you still keep your heart open for the good people waiting on the other side.